Hello world, it's your favorite little lion coming at you today with the Archipelago, which is a cozy tea making and selling game. So as you know, I am a cozy gamer and I like story-driven games and things that, have very strong narrative, characters, and just nice and calm, which hasn't really been the case recently with our very high-strung, energetic games. But now we're definitely gonna get a cozy one today, and you'll have to pardon my weird aspect ratio on this. I couldn't get this game to be full screen, and then when I kind of did, the text was like, well, you're about to see. But yeah, there was nowhere to put my precious little face that didn't cover some sort of text. So instead of just a weird black bar, I just went ahead and put a nice little safari background as a bumper. So yeah, let's hope this is pretty good for y'all. And yeah, let's get going. This game autosaves your progress at the start of each day. Every morning while you brew your tea, you stare out over the cliffs at the Archipelago, squinting for signs of other lives across the Gulf. So as you see, the text is like border to border, so... let's see. You were a child when the city split. When the city split, you were already an adult. Let's do adults, because I feel like, a lot can happen with regards to having something so substantial happening when you're a kid, but I just feel like being an adult when this life-changing thing happened. Maybe depending on how long the game is, we can do like multiple routes, if it's that significantly different. I don't actually know how many endings or not this game is, so we'll see. You can still remember the heaty, honeyed smell of the kiln where your lover worked across town. Early mornings, stolen time on breaks, long walks and leafy sandwiches on the pier. You used to reminisce together in your letters, but they stopped coming about 10 years ago. You're pretty sure they found someone new. Different folks show up every day. Sometimes they bring something for you in return. I like food prepared from the vegetables in their garden. I like bits of colorful fabric they found in the old textile mills. Let's go with food. But even if they come empty-handed, you don't really mind. You have more than enough to go around. Every night, through clouds and fog, you watch the lanterns flicker to life on the next island over. Okay, so I guess the split just means like the island split. You make up stories about how they spend their nights. You build a fire hoping someone will see you from the other side. You make up stories about how they spend their nights. Or you build a fire. I like this one. But the stories always feel hazy and fanciful. Nights spent in happy company, laughter echoing across the Gulf. You have never heard anything from across the Gulf. You cleaned up for the night and tuck yourself neatly into bed with a mantra. This is the way things are. You are on steady ground. Kind of like this one. You're on steady ground. The words calm you enough to let you sleep. Oh, right. I have to click. I'm sorry. Tonight, though, you can't sleep. There's a mighty storm outside, strong enough to snap a small island in two. Well, it doesn't really seem possible. Something catches your eye. Maybe if it was like a hurricane. Oh my gosh, there's a person falling from the sky. You can just barely spot the body flush against the cliff. It is still smoldering. Is it alive? Oh my. You shimmy your raincoat over your head, light a lantern with quivering hands, and throw the door open. Day 1, a new messenger. Oh, we're like really white. You gaze out your kitchen window at the island, take a deep breath, and begin preparing the tea for the day. Wait, what happened with the person? Which bass note would you like? Okay, so we can choose a bass note. I was hoping it would highlight... Okay, yeah, it does give you information. White tea, lily, fennel, persimmon. I always pick a few leaves at the start of the season and put them right out to dry in the sun. The flavor is more delicate than my other teas. Oolong, beets, toffee, cream. I have to borrow Adele's oven overnight so that I can roast this tea at a low, consistent temperature. Rolling the leaves into balls is hard work. Green tea, spinach, cedar, pear. I steam these leaves over my soaking tub out back. The steaming gives them a fresher taste than my black tea. Black tea, malt, chestnut, hickory, smoke. I massage these leaves before laying them out to dry in the sun. Bruising the leaves with my fingers gives the tea a strong, deep taste. I kind of like how these look. Yeah, okay. Apparently, how you prepare the tea affects who comes to your shop. So I guess that's kind of the difference in routes. Okay, which mint note would you like? Okay, let's read all of them. Lavender, I grow as many flowers as I can for the pollinators. Luckily for me, this one makes for a great tea flavoring. Barley, I roast this barley low and slow to bring out a nutty, almost smoky taste. Apple, Merrick smuggled the seeds for our apple trees. It took 8 seasons to bear fruit. Ooh, that's a lot of seasons. Some days I hope we can tend to a whole orchard. And caramel, Farah, who lives on the other side of the island, makes this caramel out of butter from her goat. She's too old to make the trek down here anymore. I like apple. Let's go with that. Which high note would you like? Ooh, definitely lemon, but let's read. Mint, the hardiest thing I've ever grown. This plant will outlive us all. Jasmine, I didn't think my jasmine plant would survive the windy season, but I kept it outside year-round for 3 seasons now, and it's thriving. Orange, oh, I thought that was a lemon. Before the split, the city kept greenhouses full of orange trees. We only have one old tree left now, in a glass dome by the textile mills. I don't know how much longer it's gonna last. Or rose. Only one of my rose bushes produces the right petals for teas. Surprisingly, it's the one with the faintest aroma. Well, I still like citrus, so we'll go with orange. Cute! For today's brew, you prepared white tea with apple and orange peel. Only last night she was a charred mess under a mountain of a parachute. You barely managed to save her from the blue. But the messenger Lux slept only a few hours, and now, having borrowed an old crutch you fashioned for a sprained ankle, she is somehow back on her feet. Okay, I thought that was us earlier, but that's her. But yeah, she looks very pale. You busy yourself with brewing your tea to stop yourself from staring. That smells good. Stare at the scar. Okay, I was thinking about the scar, but I was like, I don't want to be one of those people that are just immediately like, scar. But there you go. Stare at her leg. Be like, oh, is your leg okay? She was barely conscious when you collected her from the cliffside last night, but she still cried out when you touched her leg. It must still hurt quite a bit, even with the medicine you gave her. But if she's in pain, she's doing a great job of hiding it. Her expression is beleaguered, but otherwise normal. Do I look like that much of a mess? You avert your eyes. Oh, well, I'm not dead at least, thanks to you. Are you sure this isn't too much to ask? Staying upstairs, I mean. I'm sure I can find an abandoned building to sleep in. And, to repair my parachute, of course. She shifts on her leg, then winces. Gesture at the crush, gesture at the scar on her cheek. Alright. I'll stay until I recovered a little bit. Maybe I'll even have some tea while I'm here. Wonder why she was flying at night. Wonder why she was flying off her scheduled route. Well, I wouldn't know it was her scheduled route, but I'll say why. Messengers never fly at night. The risks are just too great. Even in good weather, it's far too easy to get caught out in the dark. So why was she... Before you can ask, and perhaps anticipating that you will ask, she points up at the stars behind you. I'm going to make myself scarce. Let you get back to it. Oh, stairs behind you? Probably not stars. I was like, oh, is she going to say, I like looking at the stars at night while flying. I'll see you around. With your tea prepared, people start to come in and take their seats for the morning. It's Flavia at the door because the chime barely makes a sound as she glides in. Your island's messenger perches on her chair as if it is welcome but unnecessary. If she wanted, she could simply sit in midair and make do with leg muscles and a willpower. What? She gives you a curt nod and you set the tea down in front of her. Mal brought a new book today. You're not sure how many times he's read each of the works in his collection, but he happily lends them to you whenever you ask, and you still haven't had to reread anything. It must be massive. He sets the book down on the tabletop. He sets the book down on the table on top of his scarf and gives you a warm smile when you bring him his usual mug. Cicely sighs and wipes a greasy hand off on her pants as she enters. Another late night at the shop, if you could venture a guess. She barely notices you bring her tea. She's staring off into the middle distance, her mind's eye focused on something else. When she finally rejoins the room, she just barely stops herself from jumping at the sight of her tea. She meets your eye and gives you an apologetic smile. You settle in at your place behind the bar, occupy yourself with preparing some tea leaves for roasting, and listen in on your guests' conversation. Excuse me, is this seat taken? No, there's quite a few empty seats in here. She's like, why are you trying to sit next to me? My apologies, I meant to ask, may I sit next to you? Yes, you may. You are Cicely, right? Yes. I've heard you were instrumental in restoring some of the ruined buildings on the island. Is that what they say about me? Yeah, I contributed. I guess I have a good sense of balance. I toured these buildings when I arrived today. You sell yourself short. You must be a talented engineer. Thank you. You know, the messenger corpse could use someone like you. Your skills could help all the islands under our watch. Do you have any correspondence for me? I do not. Not today, unfortunately. Oh well, if you excuse me then. Oh, right, because she's a messenger. She, gives out messages. So she just kind of cut her off and was like, hey, you got my mail? If you excuse me then, I finished my tea and I should get back to my work. What sort of work? Haven't you finished the restoration? Oh, she didn't like that. A slip of the tongue. Apologies. I meant I should take my leave. Pleasure to meet you, Flavia. Or Flavia. Of course, good day. She was like, dang, don't call me out on the fact that I'm just trying to ditch this conversation. Mal. How fortunate to bump into you here, messenger. I meant to ask after my letter. Mal. Did it get to headquarters okay? Is it on the route to the factories? Your letter made it to headquarters safely. If it hadn't arrived at its destination, it will within the week. I see. Thank you. He's tall. Of course. Or she could be small. Flavia, how is he? Is he happy? Mal, it's been years. He hasn't even written to me. You would know better. Writing can only say so much. I thought maybe you had found a way back onto his route. I used all the goodwill I had to get on this one. Why? Why? Mal, I suppose I sought out familiarity. Are you and you found me more familiar than him? Suppose I did. I see. Letters it is, then, I suppose. And what about Adele? What about Adele? Are they well? They're as well as can be in this situation. They want out, they lash out, but they're smart and perceptive and kind. They look more like their father every year. I see. That's good to hear. Thank you for the update. You never took an interest before. Professional only, as a new messenger for the island. I have an obligation to familiarize myself with its inhabitants, your child included. My child? Speaking of my obligations, I'm finished my tea, so I must be off. Thank you for the update and the chat. It was good to see you again, Mal. Flavia. This is kind of weird. I bet you're ready for some good news. Hello to you, Cecily. Don't play coy with me. You're on the edge of your seat. Cute. Okay, tell me. I have a sailcloth. What? How? Llewellyn? I'm gonna say Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn called in a favor with the hemp farmers. Merrick delivered it for me last week. They couldn't get it as big as I wanted, but Etna and the kids found some scraps in one of the old mills, and with a little mending, the hemp farmers, are you sure they're trustworthy? Why not? They snuggled... I'm so sorry. They've smuggled books to Gwendolyn before, and they delivered. Smuggling books is one thing. Aiding in the construction of a flying machine is entirely different. You think they'll snitch on us after the fact? No, I'm just saying you need to be careful who you trust with this project. Obviously, I didn't tell them everything. If they think about it for half a minute, they'll put two and two together. Look, I never work at night. I stash my supplies in a different building across the city. In different buildings across the city. I have traps in my house so I can tell if someone breaks in. I have a lookout from my bedroom window, and sometimes I can't even sleep anymore. I'm so busy watching my back. All of this on your suggestion. Do you want me to build this or not? Cecily, No, you're right. I'm sorry. Of course I don't want you to stop. If you get this machine off the ground, you could change everything. I want to be a part of that. I just want to make sure you have the chance to finish it. I know, just trust I'm already doing whatever I can to be safe. Of course. Now, if you have time this afternoon, I could use some help with the final schematics for the skeleton. Cecily produces a folio of paper from her bag. I love to. I mean, if I'm just sitting here at the bar, like, eavesdropping, and this is supposed to be something super secret, maybe they shouldn't be talking here, or, like, talking softer. Just saying. You finish your chores every day by pouring out the leftover tea onto the floors. Then you use it to wash them? You use the tea to wash the floor? That's a little weird. But sure. You get on your hands and knees and scrub out the stresses of the day onto the wood floors. I mean, does someone know about this? Chat? Like, is this... Can you clean wood with tea? I'm so confused. You wipe them dry with a rag, then you sit down and take in the sunset. The room smells faintly of apple and orange peel. Today, Lux watches you from up in the rafters, but if she has any thoughts on your routine, she says nothing. Yeah, say, why are you cleaning the floors with tea? You could, like, save that and probably drink it. Think about the storm. Think about the Gulf. Storm. All that's left of the storm is the smell of petrichor and the light fog over the north end of the island. I think I read recently that human beings, our sense of smell is very sensitive to petrichor when it rains. So, like, that's why, like, you can kind of smell the rain or the storm. And, like, other animals and mammals aren't as sensitive to it as we are or something I read recently. It was, like, one of those random fact compilation videos. You wonder how the other islands made out. You look over at the horizon, taking them all in one at a time. That's when it catches your eye. At first it looks like fog, but the way it catches the light is different. It's darker and thicker, and it seems to bring the night with it. That's not fog. That's smoke. You look up at Lux, and you know she sees it too. So why doesn't she look surprised? By the time you get your lantern and your boots on, the sun has already sunk under the clouds. Mal is the only one you can think to turn to. When he answers the door, his head is still in the book on vertical gardening techniques for rooftops. Interesting. But when he sees the look on your face, He snaps the book shut, grabs a quilted scarf from inside, and hurries out to come with you. Everyone on the island knows that Mal has the best eyes for the horizon. Only some know that he used to do this on the open sky. So when he climbs your tree and leans out of the edge with his oculars, you don't question it. You know he won't lose his balance. Finally, he comes down and walks quietly to your balcony, where he continues to watch. There's a look in his eyes you've never seen before. There's something about the way he's carrying himself. You aren't sure how to describe it. Is it shock, confusion, or excitement? Whatever it is, he turns to you and cuts off your thoughts. Look. He hands you the oculars. As soon as you press them against your face, Mal puts his hand over yours and gently angles them. Do you see it? You know what you're looking at almost instantly. The messenger headquarters is the largest structure built after the split, and by far the tallest on the island. It is tall, jagged, flanked by mountains, and surrounded by docks for its inhabitants. And right now, it's glowing bright orange. Oh, it's on fire. Fire. The messengers have been a part of your life ever since the split. They have existed before, but no one cared much about the mail until it was the only way they could talk to their loved ones across the Gulf. You keep all of your old letters in a trunk beneath your bed. Every single one of them came in through the headquarters. The paper on which they are written was milled there. The ink that still shows no sign of fading, even after all this time, was processed there. You don't get as many letters as you used to. Some of your friends have probably passed away by now. Others have simply moved on. But you still time your weeks around Messenger's arrival. So are we like kind of an older person, I guess? Your day still feels a little brighter when one of their letters is earmarked for you. If the mail stopped coming, even for just a month, you're afraid for the island. You're afraid for yourself. I wouldn't be afraid for the island. You watch for the rest of the night as the smoke billows and the fire glows. You take turns on the oculars at first, but soon you no longer need them. You can see it with the naked eye. At some point, Lux joins you and watches from near the door, leaning on her crutch. You speak only to draw each other's attention. To a small explosion, to the echo of a sound you can't quite decipher, to the smoking remains floating off of the clouds. Finally, dawn comes, but the fire rages on. With the sunlight, others begin to gather near the edge of the cliff. You bring tea out to them to keep them warm, but there is no conversation to overhear. The island is utterly absorbed in what has happened. For a few days, no one leaves their houses except to watch the flames. Things haven't felt so tense since the days after the split. For one frightening evening, the wind blows the smoke towards the island, blanketing everything in an orange fog. Then, in the morning, it's gone. Somehow you know people will return today, and they will need tea. Day 2. The fire. So it's saved. Hopefully. Which bass note did you like? Now we'll just kind of do whatever. Lavender. High note. Let's do this one. You prepare a brew of oolong with lavender and jasmine. Mal has barely gone home since the fire started. He has busied himself with helping the others with their oculars and updating people on the condition of the headquarters. You overhear him telling someone that it was probably burned to the ground. He takes breaks in the cafe sometimes or out on the balcony. Once you catch him drifting off and set a blanket down next to him. This morning, though, the smell of the tea, he seems to come back to himself. He stands out on the balcony for a long time and takes in the clear sky. Finally, he comes back inside. It's pretty much gone. Nothing but ashes left now. Someone needs to check on Flavia. A sad look passes over his face as he turns away. With your tea prepared, people start to come in and take their seats for the morning. Mal looks up and nods at you when you bring him his tea. For a moment, he assesses you. When he's made sure you're okay, he produces another book from his bag. This one is about smoke, fire, and flare power, but he reads it with the same calm that you're used to from him. He has quelled whatever you sensed in him the other night. Gwendolyn can hardly take his eyes off the horizon. Oh, that's fine. There is barely anything to see anymore. The smoke is still too thick to see what's left of the messenger headquarters. But he still stands like a sentinel at the edge of the cliff each day. You're surprised he even made it in here. Despite the fear pained on his face, though, he still smiles and thanks you for the cup you bring to his table. Adelaide brings you a huge helping of baked goods today. Herb buns, dough sticks topped with goat cheese, apple cookies made from the dried apples from last season. They smile when you bring their tea, but they seem more concerned that you're eating enough. You leave the pastries out on the floor for whoever wants them, but make sure to set aside a few for yourself. You settle in at your place behind the bar, occupy yourself with preparing some tea leaves for roasting, and listen in on your guests' conversation. Okay. Hi, Lou. I suppose you come to chide me. Sorry, I just had to fix something on the floor. I suppose you come to chide me. This is what I get, right, for trusting them? Oh my. Lou, no. I should be happy. You're so much safer now. So this is Gwendolyn and Cicely. Whoever survives that fire will have 100 other things to worry about. Maybe they'll even appreciate your work. Gwendolyn. This is petty and selfish of me. I'm sorry. Cicely stands up and pulls Gwendolyn into her arms. Don't apologize. They did bad things, but they're people. Some of them are your friends. Of course you're terrified for them. Lou, I'm so sorry. Gwendolyn says nothing. He clutches onto Cicely's back and buries his face into her shoulder. Hey, Dad. Hello, Addie. I heard you were the first to see the fire. Yes, I was. That must have been intense. Well, he was the second one. I was the first one to see it, and then I got him. It was certainly unexpected. How are you feeling about it? Well, I'm sure everyone must be feeling rather unsettled. Most of us grew to accept the messenger's roles in our life, even if we didn't approve of it. Wait, why would people not approve of getting, like, their messages or whatever? That sounds weird. Now we don't know who will receive mail ever again. Yeah, exactly. That sounds overwhelming. I've only ever received baking recipes. To think you'll never hear from your friends again. It must be really hard to think about. It'll certainly be an adjustment for the whole island. I know about the whole island already. But what about you, Dad? Me? I'm not sure what to say, Addie. I'm adjusting. You can tell me more than that. I've heard your stories. You captained an airship. You could have single-handedly delivered all the mail in the Archipelago. Even carried cargo or people. You must feel something about this. That's alright if you're frustrated or regretful or even happy. I won't judge you. Just let me in. Addie, I want to share my feelings with you. I do. I just don't know how to communicate them in a way you'll understand. Do I have to understand them? No, you don't. I'm sorry. Thank you for communicating your frustration with me. I'll try to do better next time, Adelaide. I'll see you for dinner. But you still didn't let me in. Hello. I mean, what is that, like, Llewellyn? I heard you were the first one to spot it. What exactly did you see? Very little, mostly smoke. What did it look like? I couldn't tell the color too well in the light, but it was thick and moving quickly down towards the south end of the island. They built the headquarters on a mountain range. That's a lot of vegetation. Maybe the mountains will halt the spread. I doubt it. How much paper do you think they store on that island? To say nothing of grains, dried goods, flare powder, kerosene. Yes, kerosene. I can't fathom a more flammable place, to be honest. No, it would have gone up in minutes. I'm sorry, Gwendolyn. No, thank you. This has been very informative. You shut the door and anxiety bubbles up in your chest like a kettle on the flame. Did the fire really destroy the whole island? Were there any survivors? I didn't say were there any survivors. You didn't realize how much having company over was helping you. Now the questions rush in to fill the silence. Does my lover remember me? Do they wish they had kept sending letters? I mean, people don't just forget people, but maybe now that they can't send any letters, maybe they might wish they did, I guess. I don't know. You try to drown the questions out of your chores. You try to drown the questions out with your chores, but the effort is futile. Your work only reminds you of more things to worry about. How will I get new seeds for my tea garden? How will I share my tea recipes with other islands? I think that's more important. Finally, immobilized by the weight of the situation, you sit down at a table and hang your head in your hands. Oh, I just realized you can't see my cursor. I chose the left one. Only to hear a knock at the door. I brought you some food. You let Adelaide in their hands full with what sounds like a stack of lacquered wooden boxes wrapped in fabric. You can tell what that sounds like. They sat down on a table, untie the fabric. Oh, they set it down on the table, untie the fabric, and carefully lift the topmost box from the stack. They open the box to refill an assortment of foods that might feed you for a whole week. I thought that was mold for a second. This being Adelaide, there are baked goods of all kinds. But there are sliced fruits and vegetables too, and what looks like some sort of curry, colorfully cordoned off at one side by a wall of kale. I wish I'd been able to get these out sooner, but it has taken me days to finish making it all. I had to scavenge a cauldron big enough for the curry from the old mill. I washed it out pretty good. Hopefully I didn't miss any rust or anything. Look, I know you don't get letters very often, but you must have had a lot of friends on the Archipelago. I couldn't imagine what it must have been like to lose them in the split, and now to lose them again. I just hope you're taking care of yourself. Adelaide repacks the rest of their boxes. You pour them a flagon full of today's leftover tea and make sure it sits safely on their shoulder. As they turn to leave, you see a flicker of recognition in their eyes. You're on the same shift now, caring for others in the only way you know how. This time, after they leave, the questions don't come back. You tear a piece of braided bread in half and dip it in the curry. The food makes you feel pleasantly drowsy. You haven't slept well since the fire. You decide to leave the rest of your chores undone. Perhaps you'll close the cafe tomorrow. You put away what's left on the box and head up to bed. As soon as your head hits the pillow, you drift off to sleep. The windy season comes in and fills the air with pollen from the poplars across the gulf. A few weeks have passed since the messenger headquarters burned down. No one has landed on the island since then. No one is used to the silence. You often catch people pacing at the landing or staring out with their oculars across the gulfs. But it's not all bad. You didn't realize until they were gone the tension the messengers brought to this place. You had listened to countless hushed conversations, whispers of smuggling, conspiracy theories, fears of parachutes on the horizon. Those have been silenced too, and their absence is serene. What's more, people have begun to speak more openly about what they've endured. They talk about messengers lost in the mail or peppered with black marks. Oh, they talk about messages lost, quote, lost in the mail or peppered with black marks. There were always subjects you knew not to broach if you wanted your letter to get to its recipient. Else they would open people's mail and read it? That's a little weird and wrong. They list the technologies that were stamped out, their inventors blacklisted from the messaging service and effectively lost to their loved ones. They list the technologies that were stamped out. They draw crude maps with memory and guesswork and count all the islands that no one has heard from. It feels like draining a wound you didn't know you had. All you could feel before was an itch of infection, and now everything hurts. But it feels better, too. And amidst all of this, Adelaide comes every week with a fresh box of food. Flavia comes around more often now, too. Usually she just sits out on the balcony where it's too windy these days to be comfortable for anyone else. Sometimes she comes to sit with you in the evenings, and you sip tea together and talk about frivolous things. The weather, how the garden's tolerating the wind, Flavia's allergies from the pollen. One day, after a long silence, she leans back in her chair and stares out at the last dregs of sunset. What am I supposed to do now? Stay here with us? Go to the other islands? Stay here with us. You open your mouth to speak, but Flavia stands up before you can. Without a word, she walks to the door, hand behind her back, and leaves. The next day, while you're picking the leaves for your tea, you spot Flavia at the landing, airing out her parachute. Day 3, what comes next? Which bass note would you like? Let's go with green tea. Green tea, caramel, and roses. You prepare a brew of green tea with caramel and rose. And a little pastry. Making tea has finally started to feel normal again. Until now, it has been your port in the storm of the past few weeks, and the only way you knew how to help. Today, though, it is how it was before the fire, simply something you do every day, because you're good at it, because you enjoy it. Because you enjoy it. And because it lets you listen in on what other people are talking about, of course. For the gossip! Spill the tea. You take your place behind the bar. With your tea prepared, people start to come in and take their seats for the morning. Flavia looks a little better now. Her eyes drift restlessly out the window towards the spot of the field where her parachute is sitting. But she looks open to conversation, at least. Her messenger uniform is faded and torn at the shoulder, but clean enough that she probably washes it every other day. He offered her clothing a few days ago, but she turned it down. Word around town is she turned down more than a few other people, too. Oh, I guess her home was on the other islands? She reaches over to take the cup from the counter. You wonder how long it'll last. Mal has been spending a lot of time on the cliffs lately. Today he has windswept look about him. His jacket is a little tousled, and his fingers seem pretty cold from the eagerness with which he warms them up with the tea. He has a book on flying machines. You've seen it before, but he's not hiding it anymore. Cicely hasn't looked so calm since she was a child. For a moment, you feel a pang of guilt. You hadn't quite realized how much weight she's been carrying, looking over her shoulder all the time. Now that it's gone, she walks with a little spring in her step up to the bar to get her tea, and as she takes it, she meets your gaze and holds it for a moment. You settle in at your place behind the bar, occupy yourself with preparing some tea leaves for roasting, and listen in on your guest's conversation. Flavia. Hi, Mal. Are you alright? Everything I worked for is up in flames, and I can only watch from my oculars. You were alright. Were you alright when it happened to you? No. I still have nightmares. Sometimes I can see the ships burning in the docks. So you have your answer. I suppose I do. But Flavia, there was a time when this was everything you wanted. Mal, not now. This was everything we wanted. This fire was a long time coming. Not like this. What happened to you, Flavia? You were going to destroy them. Now you're here mourning them? After everything they did to us, to our family? Your family, Mal. You dragged me into your family, but I was never an equal member. At least with the messengers, you what? I will not have this fight with you now. You need to move on. Goodbye, Mal. Wait, so is that child hers, and she just really rejected the child, like, you're a child, and that's why he was like, my child. And she asked about Adelaide, and he was like, well, why do you care? Because you abandoned us, or something like that. Ooh, drama. You know, we haven't really spoken since the fire. How have you been? It's funny, I thought I'd be happier. I've wanted the messengers to end for years. I haven't exactly made that a secret, but now that they're gone, I just wish I could still get my letters. But I can tell you're doing better. It's written on your face. Is it? I suppose I'm sleeping better. I still catch myself setting the trap sometimes, or sitting down at my lookouts. I don't know how long this feeling will last, or maybe the messengers will come back and I'll really have to keep track of the traps again. Perhaps, but I have my doubts. I wanted to ask, do you think Lux was involved? She could have been a straggler, but the timing, I don't know. Maybe she was. I don't get the impression that she planned anything though. Whatever happened, the pain of it radiates off of her. We may never know, as hard as that is to accept. No, I guess not. Is this how you felt when the airships were destroyed? Hopefully for what we might make with the future? Hopeful for what we might make with the future? No, quite the opposite. Frustrated that I might never get the truth? Absolutely. It still frustrates me. What do you think happened to them? People say it was the messengers, too. I heard that rumor, but no, I don't think they were that coordinated in the beginning. It could have been someone else. People tried to scuttle the ships all the time, for all kinds of reasons. Or it could have been the earthquakes. I don't even know if they would have been usable after the split anyways. They need too much oil and too many people. I don't know, even if we only had one, imagine the cargo it could have. Oh. There's too much to think about now, doesn't it? Do you blame yourself? No. Yes. It depends on the day, really. Usually I recognize that there was nothing I could have done, but the guilt doesn't always receive that message. All I can do now is help you get off the ground. Yeah. I couldn't do this without your help. Yes, you could. But thank you for saying that. ... Hello, Cicely. Flavia. I know you pay close attention to the weather. I recognized it several weeks ago. But I wonder if you recall what the wind patterns were like on the night of the storm. Gwendolyn's the meteorologist, not me. But if Lux was able to make it here on a parachute, then it must have been blowing north, right? Lux most likely jumped from the northern dock. The elevation there is quite high. I see. I'm making a flight plan to search for survivors. To prepare, I like to get a sense of where they might have flown after the fire. If the wind was heading northeast, for example. If they could have landed on any number of islands just south of here. Right. The winds became much more favorable in the days after the storm. If some survived an initial fire, perhaps they escaped to the islands in the south or west. Yeah. I don't have much to add. You would know better than me. Thank you for your input anyways. Flavia, you seem very smart. Why did you join the messengers? I'll have you know that many of the messengers are quite intelligent. Of course, but I got the impression some of them were less useful on the islands of origin. You could have contributed a great deal to any island. Perhaps recently that's been the case. Those who joined from your generation had little reason to. They don't know anyone on other islands. When I joined, there was a real sense of duty to it. We were taking incredible risks to do what the people we cared about needed to be done. So you did it for someone you cared about? Yes, for Mal, in fact. For Mal? I didn't know you two. He didn't seem particularly happy to see you. Well then. No, we grew apart. Then why not leave? Once you finish your tour, they let you retire wherever you want, right? You could have found your family or some other friends. There were no others. They were all dead by the time I joined. Besides, I've come to enjoy my work, and I'm good at it. You must understand that, if nothing else. I guess so. I'm sorry you had nowhere to go. I don't need your pity, Cecily. It's quite all right. Thank you for your help with the weather. She didn't, though. Let us hope the winds were good. Yeah, here's hoping. As you do your chores this evening, you catch yourself asking questions again. What's going to happen to the island? What will happen to the archipelago? What's going to happen to the island? Before the split, this place used to be a fabric district. People here used to weave textiles from hemp and wool and angora. The dyes they made painted rainbows on the street. They would hang the yards of fabric out to dry in the sun. Some sheets were so dense with fabric you had to push your way through. In the midst of the split, those arts were largely forgotten as everyone hunkered down to survive and make something of a life with the people they had left. What will be forgotten now? What might we remember? What else might we do? The questions don't scare you, though. There will come a time when the island gathers and works out together how to answer them. Until then, you'll just have to imagine what might happen. The prospect of that used to scare you, but now you feel strong enough to give it a try. You look outside after finishing your chores and spot Cicely up on a hill. She's bending over to hold some sort of massive contraption. It resembles a bird, wings, in flight. Every so often, she has to stop it from catching the wind and flying away. She kneels down for a moment, fidgets with something, and when she stands back up, she's strapped into her machine. She stands utterly still for a moment. Then she takes off in a run and leaps into the air. As the island prepares to decide what to do next, people come and go more frequently. You are so busy trying to keep up with that sometimes you forget to make tea at all. Still, people come just to sit, and as usual, you catch snippets of conversation. So, Adelaide knows about an Eric. You told them? No, they figured it out on their own. I suppose it was only a matter of time. How have they taken the news? They're more upset at me for keeping things from them than anything else. But they said they were thinking of leaving the island. I imagine that would be hard for you. It would be crushing. Flavia, do you think we can put this behind us? Mal, simply requesting. I'm not making a request. I'm asking whether it'll ever happen. Oh, I don't know. Do you remember when we sold the boat on the lake? You were the thief. I was just your passenger. I seem to remember you holding one of the oars. Not without evidence you didn't. Skies, I haven't seen a lake since the split. Oh, I thought you would have with your parachute. They never let us go just anywhere. We were only allowed to use kerosene for our routes. And I never had enough power to decide my own route. They put me on this one as punishment. You? Punished? What did you do? I overreached. I wanted to change the structure of our administrative wing and to require more input from the islands for major decisions. I worked for years to gather support, but in the end, I misplayed my hand. Falcon, the commander, had me demoted. He wanted to put me out on one of the harsher northwestern routes, but I pulled in whatever favors I had left and convinced him that this one would be more painful for me. You could have retired, Flavia. You don't owe these people your life, your whole life. I don't know that the commander would have allowed me to retire. You mean... I see. So this whole time, in your own way, you were still working towards your goals? No, Mal. Our goals diverged a long time ago. But I never agreed with everything they did. All these years, I thought, I wish we had spoken. There wasn't much to say. So in answer to your question, perhaps. I'll be leaving soon, but when I come back, perhaps we can try to put this behind us. Cicely tells you you're leaving to rebuild the messengers. I am. Well, I'll never understand you, that's for sure. But come find me when you get back. Maybe you can have some tea. Alright, I'll be sure to do that. Cicely, just the person I wanted to see. Oh? I'm finalizing my flight plan and I wanted to get another set of eyes on it. Cicely, wants nothing to do with you, Flavia. I don't know why you keep trying. Flavia unrolls a small scroll of fabric embroidered with a meandering red line. With a bit of luck and a favorable wind, my kerosene reserves will get me to headquarters via the eastern islands. If you're in the air by the time I leave, perhaps we might arrange to meet there. To meet at the headquarters? I understand if it's too far for you as of now. If the docks are in poor shape, it may also be a little difficult to land, but I thought it would be nice to see a familiar face. I guess it would. I won't be seeing anyone I know for a little while. But why go there instead of looking for more survivors? Do you need more kerosene? Yes, I like to scavenge for other supplies as well. When I rebuild the messengers, we will need everything we can get. You're still planning to rebuild them? Have you not listened to anyone on this island? We don't want them back. You don't understand. The messengers are more than what you think they are. They can be better than their missteps. Missteps. Okay, I'll bite. Pray tell, what would you do differently? I'll make flying gear more accessible to whoever wants it for one. Reduce the length of a tour of service. 10 years is far too long. And in the long term, I prioritize designing new flying gear that doesn't require so much training. I recognize now that we stifle people, but we can be different. We can teach them to fly. Isn't that what they said right after the split? They promised that they were going to be temporarily, only until they found the resources to build more airships. Airships were far too ambitious. Personal flying machines like yours are achievable. Yeah, but it still wasn't easy to build. It took me years to get everything I needed, and that's besides the point. The messengers didn't just control communication. I remember there was a windstorm a few years ago, and America arrived a day late. People were upset for weeks. You've seen how the island has been since the fire. That's just too much power. What else would you propose? The current situation isn't tenable either. I don't know. Something else. Let's say you get into the air and make it to another island. You, and only you, can travel freely across the archipelago. What happens then? Until we come up with a better solution, we need some kind of structure. There are other messengers who survived. Why not make use of them? Because that better solution? I don't think it involves structure at all. I think you're better than this, Flavia. I hope you reconsider. I see you across the Gulf then. Yeah. With the construction finished, all that's left is to test run it inland. That and to start thinking about the weather. Without the other meteorologists to contact, we'll have to rely on Gwendolyn a little more. But from what I can tell, the skies look pretty clear. Yes, it's all clear from here. And that's good, right? Or did I miss something? No, I was just thinking about how lonely it'll be. When I first flew, I had a whole crew to keep me company. You won't even have walls or a floor. You can always come home and visit. The currents back here are pretty stable. You've never worried about me before. I suppose it didn't feel real before. Tell me about your crewmates. Well, there was Adwin, the quartermaster. We honestly never got along. He was so uptight. But he always rationed the supplies so that we could have a little party at the end of the trip. Eva Vey was our sailing master. She was a lot like you, or a little like you. She could have made the fair wind do tricks if she wanted. I wish she taught me more. And then there was Cressida, our fortune teller. Fortune teller? It wasn't my idea. The crew insisted on it. But she was also a meteorologist, so I tolerated it. I'd have thought a meteorologist would be more necessary than a fortune teller. Did you not have someone else on board whose job that was? We could all read the weather well enough to know if the storm was coming, but she could read our futures from it. I guess it was a novelty. How many people did you have? Adwin, Crescenda, Emeric, Leathers, Dan, the Doc, and Eva Vey. That's 8, myself included. 8? How many are still alive? As far as I know, 4. Myself included. I see. Maybe I can bring their letters back to you. I hope so. Just don't take any risk on my account. I'll be careful now. But thank you for worrying. Lux has moved into an empty building across the garden. Adelaide has finally relaxed their baking schedule, and Flavia seems content on her own. You finally have the place to yourself again. You wipe the tables and floors and wash every cup until they're spotless. You fix yourself a meal and read a book by the light of your lantern. Finally, you sit at the window and look out at the lights on the other side of the Gulf. Something catches your eye this time. One of the lights is moving a little bit, and then abruptly it stops. You open up your oculars, squint into them, and focus on the light. Through the dark and the fog, you can just make out the outline of another person looking back at you. Congratulations on completing your first playthrough of the Archipelago. Play again and make different teas to experience new interactions and storylines. You may now skip the text by holding down the button, I guess. Alright, so that was the first playthrough, and yeah, as I mentioned, if you make different teas, you'll get different storylines. But we'll stop here for now with the first playthrough for about an hour video. And I guess I will record another one and let me know what you think so far about the story. It seems like there was a natural disaster that split the island, and the messengers were the only way for people to communicate between the islands, but they were kind of corrupt in some ways, and so some people were pro them, some people were against them. So I feel like there's definitely more story for us to uncover and to understand the relationship between the characters. So yeah, just let me know what you all think in the comments below. Please remember to like the video and subscribe if you haven't yet, and turn on notifications so you know when I update. Alright, I'll catch you later. Bye. Bye.